Excellent.
Yeah.
Then I start record here. Great. All right. Would you mind? Okay, so thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I super appreciate it. So we talked before about the research process. I'm going to share informed consent document with you. Before we get to the questions, do you mind if I just touch upon a couple of things so that we're on the same page? Namely that your participation is voluntary. You understand that anytime you want to stop either the interview or participating in the research process as a whole, you're of course completely able to do that, and how you might do that is laid out in the consent form. There are no like direct benefits per se to participating, except we are doing like a small thank you token of appreciation, which is either like a gift card or it's a donation to a nonprofit of your choice, whichever you prefer. I am recording this interview, but before I use the recording in any way, whether in written quote or audio or video, I will run that clip or quote by you to make sure that when I'm presenting you, I am presenting you in a way that is consistent with what you were trying to say and your position. I think that is everything that I want. And you know about the advisory board. If you have any concerns about the project as a whole, you're aware of like a redress mechanism.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. As long as those things are clear, we can get started. Okay. So to start with, can you tell me, we touched upon this a little bit when we talked last time. Tell me a little bit about the nation of Hawaii and your relationship to the land that you're currently on.
Okay, my name is Brandon Makaawaawa. I am the Deputy Head of State of the Nation of Hawaii. And the Nation of Hawaii is a Hawaiian sovereignty group. It's the oldest Hawaiian sovereignty group, but you know, we just say that in the context because people don't understand a lot about our nation. We're actually a nation that is independent from the United States, and we advocate for independence for Hawaiians because we were independent for thousands of years, and even as a country, we were an independent nation. Amongst the family of nations, we're the first non-European nation to belong to the family of nations, which later became the League of Nations and then the United Nations. We had treaties with the United States, France, every country that was practicing political diplomacy during that time. We had treaties with them. In 1893, though, we were illegally overthrown by the United States, and business owners here in Hawaii. So ultimately, capitalism and militarism overthrew our independent country. In 1993, America finally apologized for their role in the overthrow. And so my uncle, who is the head of state of the nation of Hawaii, began to organize, and he began teaching Hawaiians about the overthrow of our nation and about what the apology law now means. And so during that time, he actually took a job with the state of Hawaii as a sovereignty advisory commissioner, because they wanted to know, now that America has apologized for stealing our lands and essentially not getting any consent for that theft and calling for a reconciliation process, the state of Hawaii is actually the managers of these stolen lands. So the state wanted to understand how that relationship will be with Hawaiians going forward, how to reconcile and what will happen after that. And so they brought my uncle in, and he brought this international attorney in. His name is Francis Boyle. And Francis Boyle read through the apology law, and he created what is called the St. Thomas Law Review, which is a international law perspective on what the apology law means. And so inside the St. Thomas Law Review, he says that now that the Americans have finally apologized for the theft of your nation and the theft of your lands, Hawaiian people can now restore their independence. And so he advised us that we should do just that, not wait for the state, not wait for the United States to start their reconciliation process, because it's already started with the apology bill. And so he advised us, and in 1994, the nation of Hawaii began. We had a declaration of restoration that began on January 16, 1994. And for 1 year, we convened a constitutional convention from January 16, 1994 to 1995, where we gathered elders from all islands, and we created a constitution. And we promulgated that constitution on January 16, 1995. Our government was set up. The head of state was appointed by the elders, and that was my Uncle Bumpy Kanahele. And from then on, we've been in operation for the last 26 years now. We've been governing our lands of Pu'uhonua Waimanalo, which we acquired through an occupation of state lands, and at the end, a 15-month occupation. At the end of those 15 months, the state and us agreed that we would leave our occupation of a beach and move to the mountainside, where they had 45 acres of state lands that they essentially gave back to us, which we govern now autonomously, where we build our own houses. We created our own municipality there. And this is where we created Hawaii's first community broadband network, with the state and with the Internet Society helping us. So it's kind of a short way to get to where we're at.
You would think 3 years into this pandemic, I would remember to unmute.
I know.
So how big is the population?
It's about 85 people, and maybe about 20, I would say like maybe 20 to 18 households, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's about 20 households. And then so I'm the deputy head of state, so I help my uncle run stuff for the nation, but then I also help to manage the community broadband network. And that community broadband network was actually started in 2019 as part of the Internet Society's Indigenous Connectivity Summit.
Mm-hmm.
And we got introduced to the Internet Society by Bert Lum, who is the broadband expert for the state of Hawaii. He works in the DBED department. And he wanted to host the Indigenous Connectivity Summit. And he talked to people from the Internet Society, and the Internet Society said they would love to have it in Hawaii, with the caveat that they could help create a community broadband network. And so Bert asked around if there was any community broadband networks in Hawaii, and there wasn't any. And so we started down this journey of creating Hawaii's first. And for us, we look at the internet a little bit differently than other folks, because we advocate so much for independence that we know how difficult it is to achieve independence and to achieve a lot of these goals. We've been fighting for this for the last 26 years, with little to no help from anybody. And sometimes, because of our political stance, we've met obstacles. And one of those obstacles is internet service. We basically, because of the stance that we have, we've been blackballed by a lot of the corporations here in Hawaii. And so we weren't getting, a fair internet service. And so by getting the state involved to actually, back us, and the Internet Society to come here and just, kind of help to encourage Hawaiian Tel to get involved in this whole process, and we kind of left the politics of what we do to the side and just focused on how do we create a community broadband network. We were able to open up this new relationship with Hawaiian Tel. And, so that was a good thing. But we always have. It's not like we put down our political fight just to get internet. It actually helps to empower new strategies of how do we get things done. How do we, just like how we got our land. They didn't just give us our land. We had to occupy a beach park for over 50 months with hundreds of people until a point came where we had the leverage to push the state into giving us back our lands. Nobody else got these lands. We're the only land-based Hawaiian sovereignty or Hawaiian organization anywhere in Hawaii. And everybody else has to come under a federal program or has to buy land. We're the only ones that got our land through the fighting of sovereignty and occupation. And so same thing with the internet. We didn't beg, we didn't, rest on our laurels. We worked out something with the state, with the Internet Society, and then to work out something with a carrier. And we were able to build this community broadband network. And now we're about 3 years now into managing it and working it and trying to improve it.
That's great. Can you tell me a little bit about sort of the architecture of the community broadband network?
Yeah, so it's basically, we have 2 gigs coming into fiber optic gigs coming into our Pu'onua, our village. One of them is going down to our front gate. We don't really use that gig too much. It's basically just giving service to one house right now because the bottom hasn't really been developed. The second gig is the one that we actually had to trench from the road all the way up to our, we have a central pavilion community center. So we trenched 600 feet from the street all the way up to the center. And we co-located the line inside this community center. And then we, from there, we're broadcasting out our signal wirelessly to our now 14 subscribers. And so we're using bi-cells equipment. And the broadcasting, I don't know if you'd call them antennas or whatever. They're called ENOBs. I forget what the abbreviations are for, but on every house that we have a subscriber, they have their own CPE, which receives the signal, and we basically have that broadcasting out from that central point, shooting to the 14 subscribers now, and we manage that right now through bi-cells. They have a platform that helps us manage the speeds, and eventually when we do start billing people, it'll help us manage the billing of how much the speeds and everything for each subscriber.
So service is currently free to subscribers, but there is a plan to start charging. At what point?
It would be sometime this year. We're just getting to that point where we'll eventually start charging. So right now it's free. Actually, the Internet Society helped us pay for the first 2 years of our bills. So during trying to figure out how we work that all out, they gave us some time to basically go through the learning process without having to incur these fees. But eventually we'll divvy up the bill that we're getting from Hawaiian Tel. So basically it's around $160 per gig. So times that by 2, it's roughly about like $320, $380 that we're gonna split up amongst the 14 subscribers in our village, and then plus maybe add on a little bit for the people that help manage the community network.
And what's the total service that your subscribers are getting right now? Like what kind of speeds or data caps do they have?
It all depends on you know, what tier we have them at, but I think it's right now we have them at either I would say 50 or 60 down and maybe 10 up, I think. And our office, which is the Nation of Hawaii's main office, it's getting double that because we do a lot more work. So we're trying to work out a tier system where if people want that second tier, then they'll just have to pay a little bit more. But yeah, that's basically what we're doing with now.
Could I take you a step back to tell me like how you personally became involved with the community broadband work and where it first originated?
Yeah, so it first originated with Bert Lum from the state of Hawaii wanting to host the community, the Indigenous Connectivity Summit here in Hawaii in 2019. And in order for him to do that, the Internet Society wanted him to find an Indigenous community that could build a community network. And, you know, like I said earlier, it's difficult to find those communities because, you know, we're not federally recognized. So we don't have like a Hawaiian federally recognized tribe or anything like that. So, you know, managing a system, you know, people need to have some sort of structure. You know, you just don't, you know, go to a community of Hawaiians who all have jobs, who all have, you know, their own thing going on, and just throw this project on because it's, you know, it's a responsibility. And unless you're, you know, have the type of mindset that we have where we want to create these systems of independence, it's really difficult to understand the concept because, you know, why would they want to create their own community network when they can just get service from Hawaiian Tel or Spectrum or one of these other places? We, on the other hand, you know, fit the bill because one, you know, we have this independence mindset of trying to create these independent systems, and two, we weren't getting good service. You know, we're almost like second class citizens here in Hawaii because of our political stance. So the two matched, you know, and so it enabled us to jump at the opportunity when Bert came and talked to us about it. And, you know, even though at the time we had no, you know, broadband experience at all, no deploying of any broadband, no working with any broadband. The only thing we knew about internet was that it, you know, powered our computers and phones. We only know how to turn on, you know, and like mess around with routers, but we don't know how to deploy a system. And so when we took on this responsibility, you know, we're a little afraid of that because we didn't really have the experience, but you know, because of our history of how we got onto our lands and because of all the progress that we've made throughout the years, we understand that when these opportunities come up, we have to be able to step up to that, you know, responsibility and that opportunity and learn about it. You know, the opportunity is more, you know, is more important than anything. We can always learn about doing these things, and we felt confident that the Internet Society was there to support that, the learning process and the experience. And so when we finally agreed, that was I think in May of 2019 or June, then we went into a training process to lead up to the November Indigenous Connectivity Summit. So the Internet Society put on some classes about broadband, and you know, a lot of good information was given and shared at these classes. I think the classes were maybe 2 to 3 months. We went to training, and so that's where I learned a lot of my stuff there. And then, of course, when the Indigenous Connectivity Summit happened, They spent 2 days in the Big Island having the conference and, the whole conference scene. And then the last 2 days of the conference was actually on site at our village, where a lot of the experts that were speaking at the conference actually came over to stay at our village and help us create the network. And that's where we met people like Dara, people like Rob, people like Matt Rantanen, all of these experts came in and they, hands-on taught us and our community how to build a network. They taught us how to crimp wires. They taught us how to work with the equipment. The equipment we use are BICEL's equipment. BICEL sent a team of trainers out. They trained us. They trained our community. So we were really empowered by this whole experience. So it wasn't just like people donating equipment to us and then, just, okay, they'll build it for us. And then when they leave, it's like, okay, good luck, they really they didn't build it, they helped us build it together.
What was service like before? Like, what kind of internet service were you getting?
Internet service, internet service before was really crappy. We didn't get the normal service providers that other people here in Hawaii get. We had to have like satellite service. A lot of people use the cell phone hotspots. So all of that becomes really expensive, especially if you're streaming or if you're like uploading. Like I couldn't imagine what the cost of that would be nowadays with Zoom, and you have to upload stuff. It'd be like crazy. But yeah, it was very limited to us.
How many community members were involved in the building? So like becomes, like you said, it's really important that it's not just something that's like built for you, it was built with you. So how many people from the community were?
I would say a majority of them were, maybe 80% of our community were
Oh,
at
really? That's
these.
so cool.
Yeah, so a majority of the households were there. Out of maybe 18 to 20 houses. I mean, we have 14 subscribers today. Some of the people that attended the meeting, we still haven't been able to get them up on the up as a subscriber, but we're working on that. But they were at the meeting too, so a majority of people were there.
That's so great. So is it like your subscribers are also like people that understand how the network maintenance work?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that they understand everything, but they have an idea of what it is. They have, they were responsible for putting on their own like antennas at their house, which we helped with, and the Internet Society folks helped with. It was a really cool experience because on that day where everybody was getting their antennas, it was like really exciting because just teams of people went to each house. So the people that lived in the house were there and they were helping. And, because they just came from everybody was in the central hall. And when we were all done and we all had everything ready to deploy, everybody took theirs with them to their house. And then they just waited for the team to show up and, put it all up. And all of the houses are fairly close together. So it's like, they can all see these things happening in the process. They're seeing their neighbors, they're seeing the teams walking around. It's really exciting, actually.
Has it changed the way that you think about internet yourself, like learning how to like build it essentially?
Oh yeah. I think there's more of responsibility to the internet now, and there's more of accountability too. And so like even with internet service in our village, if we're here like at a regular house in Hawaii, like I don't live in the village, I live outside of the village. So if I have internet problems, I have to call Spectrum or I have to call Hawaiian Tel. If people in the village have internet problems, they call us. and we go over there and troubleshoot. So it's not like we can tell people, oh, we'll be there between 8 and 12. No, they call us now. I'm just gonna go there now to go fix it. I'm gonna walk down the road and we'll say, Auntie, what's wrong with the internet? Okay, let's try this, and then we fix it in like a matter of minutes, rather than working with a corporation, because our customers are our family. Our customers, our subscribers are people in our community. If they're less empowered, then we are less empowered. So the power dynamic in that aspect is, we're almost like we're shareholders. Where this is our company. We are the company, and so it's totally different. And I've talked with people about this before. It's like, people that don't understand the strength of community broadband networks, will understand it when we don't have them, and there's nobody to hold these big corporations accountable, because they don't treat customers the way we treat our customers. We need to have that accountability, to your customer, and we're never going to get that when these corporations and their territory keeps getting bigger and bigger. You're going to get less accountability. You're going to get less service. You're going to get less of all of these things. So we're really like standing in the gap as community broadband networks to actually hold these corporations and these government agencies accountable to their customers. Because if we can do it with little to no support, no funding, we don't get paid millions of dollars to provide these services. We've been volunteering for the last 2 years, but we can deliver better service than you can. So what is the issue? And so I think community broadband networks need to be deployed a lot more in more communities, and why not start with the indigenous communities? Because I think, as a whole, indigenous peoples need to move more towards independence, because it's to our betterment. It's to our betterment to really control our destiny and self-determine a better future for us, because we can't wait for somebody to come save us and to fix the problems that these people that we're relying on to fix these problems help create. So I think it just makes sense that we use internet in this way, and we exercise this sovereignty in a way that indigenous peoples get empowered by the internet.
That's great. So you've touched upon this in a couple of times. Can you talk to me a little bit about your relationship with both the state of Hawaii and the U.S. federal government? Like, how do you envision that relationship?
Well, basically now, since we've been on our lands for the last 27 years, our relationship has evolved. I mean, we've worked with, this is our 5th different governor, and it's kind of this relationship of respect now. In the very beginning, it was a very contentious relationship, because we basically, we asserted our authority over our lands. When the apology law came out, we used the apology law as a tool to help get onto our lands without anybody having to give us any more approval. The apology law was all the approval we needed. And so a lot of people in the state didn't like that. They didn't like the idea, because they thought that, if this community succeeded, who's to stop other Hawaiians from doing the exact same thing? And so we were pretty much blackballed by a lot of people, and we had a contentious relationship with the state. But I think over the years, that relationship has evolved to a relationship of respect. That's mainly because, our head of state, my uncle Bumpy Kanahele, has always been a willing leader in our community to help, come out to an agreement and a resolution to things that, normally would set people off, or would just be a lot more difficult. He comes at it with aloha, he comes at it with a different type of relationship that like not a lot of people would honestly, do, is because we're right. These are our lands, and we should be doing and pushing these guys a lot more and taking, even more extreme steps. But the cost of that to our people and the cost and the lives that it would affect, it wouldn't help, and so I think our relationship with the state has built to a point where they respect us, even though we're not politically recognized by them as our own independent nation. I can tell you this: we have a state lease with the state of Hawaii like no other. This lease was signed in 2001, and every state lease has 60 clauses in their contract. Our state lease has 61 clauses. The last clause in our lease is called the transition clause, and in that clause it says that in the event that a sovereign nation of Hawaii is created for the benefit of the Hawaiian people, these lands can be transferred over to that nation. And so, in essence, the state acknowledges that sometime in the future, if there will be a sovereign nation for the Hawaiian people, and in that event, these lands will be some of the first lands that can be transferred over. And we've taken that lease to say that, we're like the placeholders for that sovereign nation, that acknowledged sovereign nation when it finally does come, because it's basically like the state, said, okay, you hold on to these lands until this nation arrives. And so that's the type of relationship that we have with the state. The type of relationship we have with the federal government, like I said before, we're not a federally recognized tribe. So we really don't have that like government to government relationship with the federal government. But we are in contact with them a lot. We write letters to the president. We write letters to, different branches of the government. But it's just, political things like this take time and political leverage. If we don't have the political leverage to make any of these things happen, they will never happen. So we have to, just pick our fights. And something like internet and creating these independent systems, whether it's independent internet, independent food system, independent energy, independent housing, all of these things we've tackled to a point in our village. It's like the test pilot for what an independent nation of Hawaiians will look like. In these small little 45 acres, we're testing out what that will look like in the future. And it's a sandbox for not just innovation, but independence and for sovereignty and for, and this is not just for Hawaiians, this is for all indigenous peoples of the world. So our village is an example of that innovation, that independence. And that's why we jumped at the opportunity to become Hawaii's first community broadband network. It goes in line with everything we've done over our 27 years here at our Pu'onua.
Can you tell me some of that's really inspiring to hear, the idea about it being a sandbox for innovation and independence, for not just the nation of Hawaii, but indigenous people in general. Can you tell me, what have you learned in the process of both in the last, let's specifically in the last 2+ almost 3 years of running the community network? What are some of the things that you learned? What was some of the biggest roadblocks that you faced? And then some of the things that you learned.
Well, some of the things we've learned about the internet system, about managing the community broadband network is the technical side is the easy side. Like the equipment and all of that, all the stuff that we were kind of intimidated about, that's the easy part. The hard part is building that relationship with your subscribers and like being in constant contact and all of that. And because, we work on volunteer, kind of a volunteer time, and we're doing so much other things because we're a nation and we're part of that, executive branch of our government, that, internet and being a service provider to others is not always our top priority. I think we kind of like at times maybe lost that relationship with our subscribers. And so every time we talk to other communities when they want to build their community network, we always talk about, you have to kind of be on this part. This is one of the things that we felt that, if we could go back and improve, it would be that constant upkeep with that relationship, because, even our subscribers, they understand how much work we're doing. So like, if they have a problem with their internet, a lot of times they don't call us because they think we're busy, or they think, oh, I don't want to bother with them. They're probably doing stuff and, that kind of stuff. But, and what happens is we don't understand that some of the faults in our system, some of the service breaks and all that doesn't get addressed to later on. And so I would say that's a big thing we learned, is that, to kind of have that constant contact with your subscribers, have a way for them and you to interact a lot better. And so we're doing that and trying to develop actually right now an app that we would have all the subscribers put on their phone. And, when they have internet problems and all that, they just go to the app and they press, a button like, oh, okay, internet is down. So, it will get the troubleshoot ticket on our end, and then we'll just, take a break from what we're doing, take a look at this, because it doesn't take us long. And I think that's the part that they don't understand. They just don't want to disturb us in a lot of things. I think if we had standalone people that is just dedicated to just doing that part, then they would get a lot better reaction. But, we're a very unique community where we take on multiple different responsibilities. So we run into this problem a lot, but maybe in other communities where they can, put somebody as that person, they might not have that issue. But I would suggest people do that.
How many people do you have currently like working and sharing the load here?
It's just me and John Garcia, who is
Right.
one of our members. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched some of his videos at his webinar stuff at the Indigenous Connectivity Summit. That's why.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So it's me and John, and then my uncle gets involved too to help. And like, a few other people around that, will just ask, oh, can you just go to the pavilion and just turn this box off and turn it back on, and just that kind of stuff. But oh, sorry, you're still on mute. Yeah.
What were some of the biggest challenges in setting up the network in terms of like, was it negotiating with Hawaiian Tel? Was it like the trenching part, negotiating fiber access? What was?
Well, I wouldn't say negotiating with Hawaiian Tel was a difficult thing, because luckily we had Bert Lum with us, right, from the state of Hawaii. And so because Bert Lum used to work at Hawaiian Tel, and Bert Lum is currently the broadband expert for Hawaii, and he works with Hawaiian Tel a lot. He helps them with grants for rural access and all of that kind of stuff. We have this way better relationship with Hawaiian Tel because we have somebody that can just get to the meat of the issue and not get caught up in, oh, this is this sovereignty group again, or, that kind of stuff, the political stuff. So I think Bert helped us break through those barriers. the trenching, honestly, wasn't really that difficult for us because, because we're our own nation, and we had to put in our own plumbing, we had to put in and run our own infrastructure. We know how to trench. We have equipment there on the land. We have excavators. We have people that run the excavator. So it just was a matter of organizing what day it was and me getting the team together. And so that wasn't a challenge. Building the network, it's a challenge because it's new, but we had the best experts in the world helping us build that. So I would say just the daily maintenance of the network is probably a challenge, because you have to have a challenge in that. That's not like an automatic, like once you build the system, you're never going to run into issues. There's going to be issues. You're going to run into them. So the day-to-day challenges, I would suggest, is a challenge. But everything else, for the most part, was not a challenge because everybody did their job. We had Bert doing his job. We had our people doing our job. The trainers did their job. ISOC did their job. Everybody did their job. So everything ran smooth. So it's up to us as the people that manage the network to do our job. So the challenge really lies on us now, but that's really our job. So if we do our job, then everything else, it's pretty good.
It's kind of like, what's really remarkable to think about your work is that it was what, 6 months before COVID. How has COVID changed sort of the landscape for you? Or like, because you're not getting federal funding, maybe it doesn't have that much of an impact?
Well, I mean, it changed a lot because, all the schools in Hawaii went to remote distance learning. So like, if we didn't have our community broadband network before, the kids in our village wouldn't be able to go to school. So we needed that. A lot of the people that work, because a lot of the people that work in our village don't work for our nation. They have their jobs, their regular 9-to-5 jobs. Some of them are teachers. So in order for them to do their work, they needed internet. So our community broadband network provides for that. So, I mean, it was so timely to build our network in the time that we did, right before COVID hit. And so I think COVID was actually a blessing for all the people that advocate for broadband internet, and bridging the digital divide. It was a blessing because now all of a sudden you have people paying attention to broadband, and you have people paying attention to that digital divide, because people didn't realize how big the digital divide was, especially here in Hawaii. Like, when the state of Hawaii all of a sudden just said, all the schools have to go virtual. Not everybody has internet, so like, people just really didn't understand that not everybody has the internet. And now they understand that not everybody has the internet. So now you have to provide funding for internet, and these companies have to get involved. They have to be out there. They have to start trenching more. They have to start running fiber out to these communities that they neglected for years and years and years. It's not like they don't know that people live in these areas. They know, but nobody got that. We didn't get that attention until COVID hit. And so COVID has been a big blessing in disguise, where people are paying attention to broadband. And we're actually leading, a group of community broadband networks that are getting, created now in Hawaii. And they're, using us as an example, and they're using, our expertise. We're very much involved, me and John, to, going to these communities and deploying these networks. Especially John. John is like on the ground helping to build these networks with them. And then I come in and, help where I can and all that, and mostly do the talking. I'm a talker.
Tell me a little bit. So it's important now that there is this attention on tribal broadband and indigenous and connectivity on indigenous lands. What would you like to see happen for your community broadband network, but also networks in Hawaii and beyond?
I would like to see our community broadband network grow into a network that doesn't just service our community, where it can provide service for other people outside of our community, and turn it into a business, and turn it into, a real like internet service provider for others, and create jobs for our nation. And I could see that for all indigenous communities. I think that should be the goal. Once you empower your community and you employ your community in your own community broadband network, and these community members build up that experience, they can go out and get jobs in the broadband industry. They can go out and get jobs in these places, or their community can create and provide service to others, which then you can employ your own community members, and then you can create jobs for them right inside your own community. So I think that's ultimately the goal, is to, to first off, build a network to empower your own people so that you're totally, independent on that, and have your own internet service, and then expand to, now you're not just a subscriber, you're a provider for people outside of your community.
And so that I'm clear, the fiber drop at the gate that doesn't get, so there's a fiber drop at 2 locations?
Right.
Was that always there, or did that have to be built?
It was always there. They built that in the very beginning. And that was actually, it was provided there to, if we expanded down by the gate, we could just start, linking guys up from that fiber, but also keeping in mind that, if we wanted to provide service down the road to other communities, we can use that and just turn that antenna outward. And that can be where we provide that service from. So I really had like these dual kind of ideas. Yeah. And you know what, eventually what we did find out in the very beginning, we tried to run both the fiber links together, but the way that these ENOBs work is they shoot out these rays, and they're like a cone, right? And so we didn't realize that when we have 2 cones converging on each other, where they converge, they create dead spots. They cancel each other out. And we didn't understand that. We didn't know that. So we figured, okay, from the gate, we'll shoot this cone up. From the center part, we'll shoot this cone down, and we'll just catch everybody in the middle. And what we were finding out is the people that could see both ENOBs, they couldn't get service because these 2 cones would cancel each other out. So we had to actually turn this one off, like turn it off, and everybody got service off of 1 cone, and they got way better service because of that. We didn't understand that. I was like, wait, when we have 2 on, they have terrible service. When we have 1 on, we have way better service. Why is that? Somebody had to come in, like this guy from Verizon that wanted to help and kind of like consult with us. He explained that to us. So it's something we learned along the way. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I would never have thought that, but then I don't really know that much about the technical side of this work.
Yeah, and I don't think 99% of people understand any of that stuff. But so we learned about it.
So how have you approached, like when you do run into problems like this, or like weird glitches, where do you go for help? Like who is like things that you may not have internal capacity for?
In the beginning, we were just contacting the people that we worked with at that we met at the Indigenous Connectivity Summit. So we used to contact like Matt Rantanen, or we would contact Mariel Triggs from MuralNet, people like that. But then eventually, we just kind of like troubleshoot it on our own and just kind of figured it out. We kind of grew into that. John got really good and understanding the system a lot. So we don't really contact too much people now. A lot of our troubleshooting, we can figure it out on our own. Unless we're really stuck, we'll call buy sells or we'll call Hawaiian Tel. I mean, we've only done that maybe once. I think we've only called Hawaiian Tel once, and that was because their system down the road went down. So it had nothing to do with anything we were doing. But most of the problems can be solved within our own network, so we can troubleshoot that on our own. And we've been doing that for the past 2.5 years.
I think the final question I had for you is like, what kind of advice are you giving to other Indigenous communities in Hawaii or beyond, like in Hawaii through the Community Broadband Network group that you were leading, and then in other spaces for building?
I think to not be afraid of the opportunity to create your own independence, and not being afraid to step out and take on these industries that we normally aren't associated with. I think whenever we hear about something, a community broadband network that you have to manage, a lot of people just think, oh, how can we do that? We don't have the time. I don't have the experience doing that and all that. And I would say that we need to be able to take away those fears and kind of like take that leap of faith that we can and we will. And there's been people that have done it before. And these same people that have done it before will be here to support you. So you should step out. And when these opportunities are presented to you, you should jump at those opportunities and take on that challenge, because what we see as a challenge today will be lessons that we learn to empower our future, to empower the next generation, to actually be industry leaders in this industry, maybe in the future. I see that happening all over the place. I mean, look at the stuff that we've done within the last 2.5 years. And this is just doing this part-time. I mean, if we concentrated like all of our time on managing the network, I mean, we could go work for Hawaiian Tel and Spectrum and know a lot more than a lot of these people are, because they only work on one side. Maybe they just work on the line. They don't work on the technical side. They don't work on the, how much broadband speeds people are getting. They don't work with the, mapping out where your cones are approaching. Like even the trenching, Bert Lum, him being the broadband expert, he never saw trenching get done. He saw trenching get done at our village for the very first time when we were first doing it, and so I think Indigenous peoples need to take every opportunity to become independent. It doesn't matter if it's broadband, if it's food, if it's water, whatever it is. If there's an opportunity and there are people willing to help empower you, we need to take those opportunities and really do something with that opportunity and empower our communities as best we can.
That's fantastic. And I think that's a great note to sort of wrap up today. Those were all the questions that I had for our first round of interview. Is there something that I missed and I should have asked you about, you think, that we didn't discuss today?
I don't think so. I think you pretty much covered a lot of, the gist of it, what we do and how we're looking to, help other Indigenous peoples with, understanding community networks better and understanding the value in building your own community network. So, I think we did good.
Good. Yeah, I think we did good too. I think we covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
I am gonna transcribe this interview and I'm gonna do a few more interviews for like sort of finish up my first round with everybody that I'm interviewing. And then I'll get in touch about doing a second round and I'll send you like some of my learnings. If in the meantime you think of things that we should really get into in a second interview, that please email me and then we can sort of build on this conversation next time around.
Yeah, because I would like to understand how other Indigenous peoples think about the idea of sovereignty and, how that works with, the internet and how, because for us in Hawaii, we're the pioneers. So we're teaching this to everybody else to learn it this way. But I want to understand if other indigenous peoples are thinking about it the same way, or are they just thinking about empowering their own community, which is great. I mean, it's not, there's no knock on that, but yeah, I want to know if other people think about internet in that same way.
Yeah, I'm hoping to. So I didn't have to prompt you. That was just obviously something that's central to your work, and you've talked about it today. But it is something that I bring up in all of my first round interviews with folks to sort of get a sense of what they're thinking. And I also feel like it's a thing that's going to keep coming up in these conversations, and I'll probably talk about it in my second and third interviews with people as well.
Yeah,
because
right on.
You sort of understand each other the first time you talk about it, but it's a really big and deep topic. So I think that is going to be like a central theme of that I hope to explore.
Yeah, and I think for us, because we come from a sovereignty, advocacy, independence background, we're not broadband people.
Yeah.
This is not our job to be broadband people. So we always think of things that way already. Automatically, we're trained to think of things that way. I think it allows us to think of it that way. And so it's no knock on anybody else if they don't think of it that way. Some people just are providing that service for their community, which of course is like the meat of the issue.
Yeah.
So, but to have this other piece included in that, it's almost like, it's like you have a double whammy with that. You get the internet service, plus you're like asserting your rights, the air, everything above you. It's not just the land. This is all ours too, and we should exercise that right when we can, and not allow people to exploit us in that realm too. Because this is the internet, this is the real estate in the sky now, the internet.
Yeah.
And we have to be there to claim that before these other guys are, they're already doing it. So
yeah.
And I think Dara talks a lot about that, which I love.
She does. Yeah. And she
Yeah.
has good evocative ways of talking about it.
Yeah.
Very eloquent.
She's great.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you so much, Brandon. I really appreciate your time today. And I'll be in touch with about a follow-up interview. And if you think of anything, or if you have thoughts that you want to share between now and then, please let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Have a good day. Aloha.
Aloha.
Bye.